This is part 2 of the architect's design proposal formula. And I wanted to suggest, if you're a design architect and you want to become more efficient at your design process and workflow, then keep on watching. And if you've missed session 1, go back to session 1 in the description below, watch session 1, and then come back to video 2. So this is my virtual drawing board, and this is a suggested workflow. You don't have to use my workflow, but I have never experienced anything like my own. I've seen my colleagues sweating during the day with their workflows. They don't have ways to do things that I have. And I see the amount of stress that they go through to get where I can get to extremely quickly. Normally, I start off, like I said, with the schematic plan. And you can use softwares that are traditional like AutoCAD, and you can use SketchUp to get a 2D schematic plan going. But once you've got that 2D schematic plan prepared that I showed you earlier, obviously it's one of these plans. Once you get, it doesn't have to be colored up yet. This was colored up afterwards, but it can just be a basic layout of this is a basement parking and then just different sizes, etc. Doesn't have to be as refined as these. But once you've got that, then you can bring your 2D plans into Revit. And what happens in Revit, and why Revit is so exceptionally powerful, I'm going to speak about it. I'm going to jump into why it's powerful. I'm going to show you exactly. Is because it's got something inside of it, which is called the massing tool. The massing tool doesn't appear anywhere across the design plethora of tools in the world right now. I've seen it nowhere. I haven't seen it in AutoCAD. I haven't seen it in Vectorworks. I haven't seen it anywhere except within the Revit environment. And it's almost like a 3D tool that exists within Revit as a separate sort of application, and you can use it all by itself. And once you use that massing tool, it helps you reiterate using parametric and BIM modeling the building form, and you can change up your design extremely quickly. But once you've changed up your design extremely quickly in the Revit massing environment, then you take it into SketchUp. And the reason why we use SketchUp, I'm going to show you just now, it's mind-blowing, is because SketchUp is so extremely powerful with finding views. Number one, you can hunt views like Frank Lloyd Wright would have wanted, and you can tweak your model because it gives you the ability to tweak your Revit model. So you can edit your Revit model in SketchUp in a very primitive way. Even a child could work, and then you can create presentation material from within SketchUp. But once you've got your SketchUp model going, and you've bought Entourage, we use something that's called Entourage. What's so powerful about Entourage is that a model cannot go out to the client without people, cars, trees, foliage, and all the entourage that you need to bring it to life. If you do that, you in a counterproductive design mode, and I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. It's going to really give you some insights to that. We take our existing model and we make it amazing in SketchUp. But once we've got that going, we can use different types of softwares to render. Now, I don't use just one type of render process. I use something called D5 Render for one of my processes. I've got the Artful Sketch-like Render, which is another process where I don't even use a render software. I just use SketchUp and Photoshop. But then there's artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence right now is extremely powerful and does mind-blowing stuff if you know how to do it. We have training on that we've just completed 4 semesters of AI render. And then we've got the old traditional methods of rendering, which are a little bit time consuming. And some of these softwares are all trying to catch up with what is happening with AI, and plugins for AI are happening within them. So there's many different ways that you can go about rendering. But once you've managed to render your building and prepare it for a meeting with a client, a first, second, or third meeting, then what we do is we use Photoshop. First process that we do in Photoshop is that we edit the individual images, we correct mistakes, we airbrush, we soften the images, and then basically the second process in Photoshop is layout, where we create layouts with our images. If you're using Canva, you can also create layouts, but I use Photoshop for everything. And we prepare our drawings for the client. And this is where it's very critical to go right, because a lot of people are presenting their drawings using a PDF on a computer screen to their clients, or computer screen in the boardroom meeting area where they've got this huge digital screen and they use that screen to present to clients, or they're creating virtual fly-throughs of their building, which is extremely overwhelming for a client. A client doesn't need to be overwhelmed. A client needs simplicity and needs to be able to absorb the work that you produce. So what I suggest in my process, what I found is most effective is the ability to print out on tabloid size landscape paper, a nice thick cartridge, and create brochures, because brochures have a psychological impact on clients. It's just something that I noticed over the years, that when they got a brochure, they took it home with them, they put it on the car seat, they showed their wife, they showed the developer that they were friends with, and it just creates a huge amount of momentum. So what I'm suggesting to you is that when you do a presentation, don't leave it on the computer. Put something in front of the client and make it look good. We're going to speak about that a little bit more as well. This is the main virtual drawing board. This is Revit and SketchUp. And Revit and SketchUp work together like a brother and sister in symbiotic relationship. It's unbelievable how these two softwares can fuse together and make life easier. And as you can see in the middle here, you have this crossover with a Venn diagram, and that crossover is borrowing the strengths from both softwares, and it's giving us that leverage that we need. And the process from Revit to SketchUp is not linear. There's a back and forth, just like you would use butcher paper on a drawing table and you would layer your design. So you would use Revit and SketchUp the same way an architect would layer their design. So who's ready to take a look at Revit and the modeling process? And we're going to jump into Revit quickly. And I'm going to basically show you how to move through this process very quickly, an overview. You can see here's our schematic planning. Here's the 3D Revit model. Here's the drawing within SketchUp. And here is our layout and our post-production done in Photoshop, ready for print. And this whole process from schematic planning to final layout between 1 and 2 days. You shouldn't spend more time on it than that. And because you are working on risk, and it's super important that you avoid working on risk. And the only way you can do that is by having a streamlined process. And it's going to save you thousands of hours and pain and stress. In this session too, we looked at how we could piece the workflow together by using applications like SketchUp, Revit, Photoshop, AI, D5 Render, and all the processes in a nutshell. And then we also looked at the overarching workflow. In our next session, we're going to dive deep into Revit and SketchUp to take a look at some real-world examples. And also, if you're a design architect and you'd like some feedback on your existing workflow and design process, then simply book a free session with me in the description below. If you found value in this training, you can also watch session 3 of the Architect's Design Proposal Formula by clicking on this video.